For decades, many white South Africans viewed Nelson Mandela through fear, right? During the apartheid, the government portrayed him as a dangerous revolutionary. Because he was in prison for 27 years, most people had little direct knowledge of who he actually was. Right? It's just hearsay, right? I know what other people say about him, but do I really know him? Right? There was a large gap between the public image created around him and the person himself. Does that sound familiar about Jesus sometimes today? Who he is and what people say about him, there's this gap. Same thing with Mandela, right? So when he was released from prison in 1990, many expected him to call for retaliation against those who had supported apartheid. Instead, he consistently communicated a different vision, right? He repeatedly stated that he wanted a democratic South Africa where all races could live together and that reconciliation was more important than revenge. This is what Mandela stated, his words, right? And like anything else, when you've heard all this information to the negative, it's hard to believe when somebody says something contrary. So initially, some people doubted him, right? Have you ever doubted somebody's intentions because you had heard this, that, or the other about them? It's okay. You can admit it. It's okay. It's okay. Not going to get struck down in here today. We're not beating people up, but it's like we do that all the time. We have to fight against that, right? So they wondered whether his public statements were merely strategic, right? You know those people. They'll say anything to get what they want. Time will tell, though, right? So, but over time, his actions aligned with his words, right? He met with former adversaries. He supported negotiations rather than violent confrontation. He included political opponents in the process of building a new government. He publicly emphasized forgiveness and national unity. He backed institutions such as the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which focused on uncovering the truth about past abuses rather than pursuing widespread retribution. He was about mending relationships, not tearing them down, right? So what created trust was not a single speech or gesture. It was an increasing clarity people had about who Mandela was. And that's where we are in the Gospel of John. Jesus has just made it clear who he's claiming to be. Right? The religious leaders didn't get confused when he said, "My Father is working and I am working." Because they tried to kill him because he was making himself equal with God. That's what the word says. You can get mad at it. They didn't get confused, and we shouldn't be either. So he's made this claim, and he gave the witnesses, and he's given signs. He's pointed past the physical to the spiritual depth underneath it, and he wants us to understand that he clearly is who he has said he is. He will not be boxed into their assumptions of a religious or political leader. He's here for more. He's here for more today. Our boxes of who we think he is aren't big enough. I don't care how big your box is, or how big you think your box is. He's infinitely larger than what you can imagine. And we have to grasp that with a great clarity from his word by the power of his spirit if we're going to continue to grow deeper in our faith. He will confront us over and over with the haze that he wants to break through. And there is a crowd coming around the lake to him because they've seen the physical. And he wants to clearly point them past what they see to what's going on inside their heart. And over the next few weeks, he's going to drag it out of them and be very clear about what it means to follow him. And here's the thing, family. That's you and me. We're sitting in a grass field watching Jesus multiply bread. We're sitting in a boat rocking on a sea that we're familiar with, but we don't know how to move forward. And what Jesus does in this moment is he comes to us and he wants to, if you're a believer, remind you of who he is. He will confront your misconceptions. And if you don't know him, the whole purpose of the book is what? So that you might believe that he is the Son of God, the Messiah, and in him you'll have eternal life. Not just life in the future, but a flourishing life today, no matter the situation. Belief in who he is breeds trust that he has the power to do everything he says he will. So our take home today, our redemptive truth, if you will, is greater clarity of who Jesus is leads you to trust him in every season. Greater clarity. So Jesus has been clear. And every sign he gives is meant to clarify. Cut through the noise. Cut through the assumptions. He's greater than. In this case, we just heard about Moses, and this is a strong allusion to the Exodus and then the manna in the wilderness. And Jesus says, I'm the greater Moses. I'm better than that leader. I'm the promise he sent you. If you'll see it, if you'll accept it, if you'll accept that I'm not your conception of what that prophet, that Messiah, that rabbi would be. I'm all of them in one. Don't box me in. Greater clarity of who Jesus is leads you to trust him in every season. How many are in a season right now where you want Jesus to show up? You can raise your hand. Like, it's perfectly okay. It's like, do I? Okay. As long as you don't call on me like class, we'll be okay. Nah. Show of hands. Who is in a season where you want God to show up right now? Because here's the important thing about participating in church. Look around. Are you alone? So why live like you're alone? Everybody's looking for Jesus in this season. We need each other to see clearly. Remember the room. You're not alone. He is the better Moses. He is more. Trust often grows when uncertainty decreases. When people have a clear understanding of who someone is, their values, their motives, their strengths, their weaknesses, they spend less energy guessing. That clarity can create a deeper, more durable form of trust than simply demonstrating competence. Why do we see Jesus be so consistent in how he deals with the Pharisees, with how he deals with the broken, with how he deals with fill in the blank? He is affirming that he is exactly who he says he is, who the word says he is, who the Spirit testifies that he is. And every season, no matter the circumstance, he's the same. So if you know he's going to respond in the way he says he's going to respond, what does that do for your faith in every season? What can that do for your faith in every season? Because there's an 18-inch gap between can and what we think will happen. We need greater clarity. So let's look through this very quickly. In that one, he is better than a provider of our physical needs. He's better than that, okay? Somebody say better. One more time. Better. There we go. He's better. He's more than it. He's better than it. Like he's not just here to help you through this, right? Because after this, right? After this, I told you. So we're coming out of him explaining himself to the religious leaders. But if we read through the other gospels, what we see is there's a lot that's going on in this. After this, in verse 1, it says after this, what's happened is he sent the 12 out. Remember, he said, "Go." Don't take your money back. Don't take all that. Like, cast out demons in their name. We prophesied, and like we healed people. Like they did all this, and they're coming back. They're giving a report. This is what's happened. Oh, and also John the Baptist got beheaded. There's that. That's in there too. And what Jesus does, hey, let's go over here. We need to rest for a second. See, John doesn't give us that, but it helps us understand what's coming, right? So verse 1, after this, Jesus went away on the other side. So he takes the disciples, hey, you need to rest. You just cut out of this season of ministry. You need to rest for a second. This is already preaching to me. I don't know about you, but like sometimes we need to rest for a second. And if you don't believe you need to rest, Jesus just hits you with it. You can't run forever. I don't care how good the ministry is, you've got to break. There's a Sabbath was made for man. Like we have to rest from our work. That's got to be a rhythm. That was for free. The Sea of Galilee, which is the Sea of Tiberias. And a crowd was following him. They followed him, all right. They went around the lake. They saw them going across. They went around the lake, chasing him down. And before they could get to the other side, they beat them there. Because another gospel says they're coming up to the shore and he sees the crowd. There they are. Man, we were trying to get away from y'all jokers. And we still couldn't do it. But man, they were following him because they saw the signs he was doing on the sick. We're going to jump to Mark real quick because we're going to need some clarity in here. Mark says it like this. When he went ashore, he saw a great cloud and had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. And he began to teach them many things. You see, this wasn't, he showed up, how are we going to feed them? No, see, he was tired from ministering, and he comes over there and he goes, man, they're looking for somebody to follow. They're searching, even though they're searching in the wrong way. Man, they saw the signs that maybe he'll heal me. Because what happens is in this moment, he taught them many things, and in other gospel he says, and he healed their sick. And so now we get later in the day before the food conversation comes up. So Jesus has been ministering all day because he knows they're coming for the wrong thing. And family, he knows when we come for the wrong thing. Jesus, will you just give me and then I'll be okay? And he lovingly and compassionately looks us straight in the eye and says, no, you won't. You think you know what you need, but it's so much deeper than physical. They're sheep without a shepherd. And he taught them so Jesus, in classic Jesus form, he went up on the mountain and sat down. This reminds me of like the Sermon on the Mount. Like he went up there, he sat down, and he began to teach. It's kind of his thing. Let me talk to you first. And we're going to talk all day. How many would sit in a church service all day long? Yeah, I didn't see any hands. None. There are churches like that. But anyway, now it was Passover. John gives us this editorial note. It was Passover. Because you see, if you start putting some things together, right? They're out towards the wilderness. Jesus is leading this great crowd, right? They're about to have a meal. Anybody flash to Exodus when Moses does these signs and wonders. Why do the people come in? Look at the signs he's doing. You see, but God's signs were so that people would believe that he had sent Moses. He was the one doing this. He was liberating his people. He was providing. Go across the sea, and that man were hungry. Okay, let me let manna fall from the sky. He was the one providing it. It wasn't Moses that was doing it. It was always God's provision. And it was always meant that they would trust him more every day. How many people can walk around for 40 years and your clothes not wear out? I mean, I got a shirt that's 20 years old and it's still going strong, but I don't think it's going to make it till 40. The neck is already starting to get holes in it. It ain't going to happen. My shoes don't last more than a year. It's God's provision that's doing all of this. Now the Passover, a feast of the Jews, was at hand. And lifting up his eyes, he sees the crowd coming towards him. And I'm like, guys, this is the point in the story where I want you to place yourself if you're a believer in Jesus. Because have you ever looked at your life in any situation, right? And God asked you to do something. He asked you to take a step of faith, right? And your first response, well, where are we going to get the resources for that? How's that going to work? Jesus, you got to be out of your mind. Am I the only one that's ever said that? Okay, thank you. Don't make me stand up here and be by myself. We just raised our hands and said we're in this room together. Okay? Like, listen. But he asked his disciples, right? He says, Jesus said, where are we going to buy bread so that these people may eat? And he said this to test him. And this isn't a negative temptation. He's not tempting him to do something he shouldn't do. Just like God disciplines us and tests us to strengthen our faith. It's meant to draw us deeper, that 1 degree. It's meant to draw us deeper into him. We're confronted with our inability. But Jesus is a step ahead. He knows what he's going to do, right? And Philip answered him like we would. 200 denarii worth of bread. It would not be enough to get him. 200 days' wages. You getting a crumb. We can't feed these boys. Listen, sometimes sarcasm helps, okay? Listen. Because Philip doesn't know. He's from Bethsaida. He's from a near area. He knows the village. He knows what the village can provide. It's like, I don't know what we're going to do. Andrew over here comes in. One of his disciples, Andrew, his brother, like he said, there's a boy here with 5 barley loaves, which is the poorest bread, by the way. It's the lowest. It's cheap. It's a little boy's lunch. The fish to make it not be so dry and not give it a little bit of something. Right? But what are they amidst so many? Has Jesus ever confronted you with your inability? Has he ever confronted you with your lack of resources? Jesus knows what he's going to do. He's inviting the disciples into it, but there's a condition. They have to understand that they can't do it. They can't muster up the ability. Reason is not going to play the game. And we live in an age of reason. Where if we can't figure it out, it can't happen. Right? And what we have here is Exhibit A of God taking reality, and reality has to accord to his will. The creator of the universe is about to do something that is attested to by 5,000 plus people for all of eternity. that when God moves, creation obeys. He's meeting a physical need, but let that sink past the physical into your heart. When God wants to move, nothing is off limits. He confronts us with our inability, but Jesus doesn't leave us in our inability, but reminds us of his infinite ability. That's what we have to hold on to. Like when we're sowing seeds into this in this book bag, when we're stuffing this, our ability to craft the right words, our ability to put the right things in or make sure it gets into the right hands, we like to control things. But here's the thing. You can control all you want, but you can't make that land. You can't make your job pay you more. You can't make your health be better than it is. Within reason, you can work out more, you can do those things, but overall, you really don't have control over it because there's people who are healthy as a horse and have heart attacks and die at 50. Genetics plays a role, I hear. But here's the thing. Ultimately, God is in control. And we need a constant reminder that he is infinitely able to do what he has said he will do. So Jesus says, have the people sit down. I can see him holding the biscuits and the fish and going, sit down. And in classic Jesus form, he gives that blessing, right? He thanks God for God's provision. From you come the bread of the earth. And think about the magnitude of that right now. He did not do what we do. God, this is all you gave me. He wasn't worried about the lack. What was he worried about? God, you would be honored as a giving Father. Thank you. Thank you for what you've given me. And then he proceeds to make creation multiply. Right? Here, hand this out. I wish I could had a basket up here and somehow I could just they're pulling the magician's scarf out of that. He just keeps coming and coming and coming and coming and coming and wrap up the whole room. That'd be great, wouldn't it? But could you imagine the scene? He just starts handing it out. And the people see it, right? He's, here, you didn't get some. Who didn't get some? You 50 in the back there. Y'all, take it to them. 50? We only got 5. We got 50, okay. And then 5 to 20,000 people later, everybody's full. You didn't get a biscuit, you got the whole meal. You didn't get a kid's lunch, you got a buffet. And this is going to trip the people up. When we get into next week, they're going to chase him down because Jesus goes, because you got your bellies full. And how many times do we chase Jesus blesses us and we chase him like, hey, you got any more of that? Can you do that again? I was real good for about 2 hours. That Chinese buffet was real good. And then 2 hours later, I was starving again. You see, they missed it. He sits them down. He feeds 5,000. He took the loaves, and when he given thanks, he distributed it so they had as much as they wanted. And when they had eaten their fill, he told the disciples, gather up the leftovers, that nothing may be lost. You see, God's not wasteful. He's got more than enough resources to have an abundance. And then this number 12 that it says they gathered up, filled 12 baskets full is we can see hints at the 12 tribes. He's more than enough resources to catch all 12 tribes. He's going to save a remnant for himself. But here's the thing. He doesn't want them to miss the fact that it's more than physical. It's spiritual. Remember the woman at the well? What did she come to the well for? Water. She was thirsty. He says, I got a water that'll never run dry. And she said, give it to me because I don't want to come back to this well no more. She missed it. And he took the time to explain, no. I'm not talking about that kind of water. It's so much better. And you see, Jesus is he's meeting our physical needs because he wants us to remember that in him we have everything we need. For every day, because you're going to get hungry again. Your stomach will be empty. The resources will be lacking. But Jesus is never lacking. His ability is not challenged by your physical circumstances. And we need to come deeper into him and remember his faithfulness in every season. He's much better than a provider. And his disciples now, so if he comes from the crowd, right? So we've got this mixed bag, we have the crowd, but then this next scene that we talked about, right? It's his disciples. And Jesus is going to show I got ahead of myself. 1 second. The crowd got confused. So Jesus is going to prove that he's better than whoever we confuse him with. Right? So he says when the people saw the sign that he did, they witnessed the bread and the loaves, or the bread and the fish, right? They saw the sign that he had done. They said, this is indeed the prophet who is to come into the world. So who are they confusing with? Deuteronomy 18:15. It says this. It says, the Lord your God, this is Moses speaking right before they come into the promised land, right? The Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet like me from among you, from your brothers. It is him you shall listen to. And over time, there's going to be this religious and political leader that's going to come up and he's going to free us like Moses did. Who was it that freed them? It was God. You see, they got it twisted because we don't ever get that twisted in today's society. That it's God that's in control, not the political leaders. It's not the donkey, it's not the elephant, it's not the green people in the middle, it's God. He is in control. And when we begin to attach things in the wrong places, we get our view of Jesus clouded, which then influences our view of this world. And that's not who we're meant to be. We don't need to get that conflated. If we go a few verses later in verse 25, they're going to call him rabbi. So they've called is he a prophet or is he a rabbi? Which is he? Is he a good teacher? Is he a good leader like this? No, he has not left those categories open to us. He is the Messiah. He is the Son of God. He is your deliverer, your redeemer, and your creator. These are the categories. This is what drives Peter to his response at the end of the chapter, where Peter says that he, flip a couple slides there, Aubrey. Come on. Simon Peter answered him, Lord, to whom shall we go? For you have the words of eternal life. And we have believed and have come to know that you are the Holy One of God. You see, Jesus is going to withdraw. The verses we skipped, he's going to withdraw because they've missed it. And the disciples down the road are going to get it after this next scene. Where then, why are we going out in the boat? Well, Jesus actually sent them down there. He went up on the mountain to pray. It was intentional because the disciples had also missed it. Is that he's better than a deliverer from physical situations, right? So when evening came, we're going to go all the way through. When evening came, his disciples went down to the sea. They got into a boat and started across the sea. I mean, some of these are fishermen. They grew up on the water, right? Went across the sea to Capernaum. It was dark, and Jesus had not yet come to them. The sea became rough because a strong wind was blowing. Other descriptions of this, like, this is that scene where Peter's going to step out of the boat, but we don't get that information because that's not John's purpose. But what we get is when they had rowed about 3 or 4 miles, they saw Jesus walking on the sea and coming near the boat, and they were frightened. And he said, "It is I am. Do not be afraid." We've heard that "I am" before, right? And then they were glad to take him into the boat. Obviously, after Peter walked on the water, started to sink, got scared. "Why ye of little faith," that whole thing. They were glad to take him into the boat, and immediately the boat was at the land to which they were going. Let's stop right there. At the end of Mark's account, you know what it says? Why they were afraid? Because they didn't understand the loaves. Yeah, my face. What do you mean they didn't understand the loaves? You see, God went from the crowd to his followers to reveal the power to do what he has told them he will do. Think about it. If you're sitting in a boat 3 miles out and Jesus comes walking up, is there anything he can't do? Walking up. Did you hear me? Not swimming. Walking on the water, unfazed by the waves, walks up to the side of your boat and has a conversation with you. At that point, I'm going, there ain't nothing. You got it. You see, to his followers, he makes it even more clear. And he does that for us. He does that for you. If you sit with him, if you come in close, he promises to reveal himself. Sometimes we have to recall the moments when he has. When we're in the middle of the storm, we're like Peter. Don't make yourself like the people over here reading 2,025 years back going, "Oh yeah, I would never have been like Peter. I would not have doubted whatsoever." That's bull. You would have stepped out, that 10-foot wave would have come over your head, and you would have said, "Help." Because you would have started sinking, because your eyes today, we move off of Jesus, and we have to discipline ourselves to bring them back. We have to focus in and have clarity on who he is. He has not changed. The situations of life have changed, but he has not. And like Peter, we have to get our eyes back to who he is. Away from politics, away from health, away from our resources and our financial situation, away from our relationships, away from our friends and our family. We can't put other things in our focus point and expect life to go as it should. It's only when we're clearly looking at our Father, at the Son, through the power of the Spirit, that we can walk through the storms of life. Jesus is more than able to meet you in the storm. Do you believe that? We can nod our head right now. We can do this. I love Mike Tyson's quote here. Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Anybody ever been punched in the mouth? Maybe not literally. But more ways than one. Okay, there you go. That's fair enough. Right? Anybody ever been when the waves are over your head? When the winds are howling? Man, you've been there before too, and you're back in it again. Fishermen, man. The fishermen had grown up on the water. They know these storms. Peter, the one who doubted, he grew up in these storms. But there's something about an encounter with Jesus in the storm that is going to transform him into the person that says, where else are we going to go? I'm still going to deny you 3 times later on, but where else are we going to go? Because that's real. You've been in the storm 3 times and denied him. I've been there. But we serve a God who shows up in the storm. He makes himself abundantly clear to deepen our faith, to clear our vision, so that we would come to him. So what do we do? What do we do with this? What do we do with this story that we've heard 1,000 times? Or maybe it's your first time. I don't know. If greater clarity of who Jesus is leads you to trust him in every season, the action step is that we must commit to seek a greater clarity of who Jesus is. Well, how do you do that? We're going to go through the entire book of Psalms over the next 2 months. You want to see Jesus more clearly? Start with Psalm 1. I promise you'll find him. Then you'll go through Psalm 2, and then you'll get into Psalm 16 and Psalm 23. Jerry and I have an affection for Psalm 73. Oh, Psalm 119, the largest one in the Bible. Everybody's favorite, Psalm 139, where he talks about you were fearfully and wonderfully made, where he knows you so intimately that he wove you together in your mother's womb. Why don't you commit to know him a little bit better? Can we do that as a family? Can we encourage? Jerry challenged us to encourage one another with what God is revealing. So there's an expectation that he's going to show up in whatever storm you're in that day through his psalm. And your commitment is that I will not keep it to myself. I won't be selfish. But I will freely give of what he gives to me. We're going to practice generosity daily. Serve together. You want to commit to clearly see Jesus more? Serve together. Show up when we're greeting people at the door, when we go into the community, when we are at each other's houses, when you're at the YMCA, when you're at Planet Fitness, when you're at whatever, Walmart, Pizza Hut, Domino's, whatever your favorite restaurant is. You want to see Jesus more, make him known more. Because you know what's going to happen? He's going to show up there too. The disciples just got back from showing people Jesus, and what did they see? They clearly saw him show up. And they knew that he was who he said he was. Greater clarity of who Jesus is leads you to trust him in every season. He will consistently show you his character so that you will more deeply trust him every day.